It is that time of the year when we sign up for gym classes to get our fitness back, or we sign up for swimming lessons to get over our fear of water, or we make goals to run a marathon when we can't even run a 5K today. Or if you're like me, exactly a year ago, you make goals like traveling different countries in 2020 because why not, right? Who is going to stop me? Only to find out just 2 months later that the world is shut down. So the point is, each of us makes some goals at the beginning of the year and often find ourselves in a fix 12 months later when we realize we did not meet our goals. So, what goes wrong and why don't we meet our annual goals? Welcome to Books and Brew, and I'm your host Mayur Ghatge. And today I'm going to talk about a book called Atomic Habits, which is, I would say, a workbook on how to develop habits to achieve the goals that you set for yourself. Self help books are not my favorites when it comes to non fiction, and I find them preaching at times, to be honest. But this book definitely has some ideas that caught my attention and is more like a workbook, as I said, to get you started on building some good habits. This is a book written by James Clear and was published in 2018. I'll talk about three ideas from the book, and that will hopefully make you want to read this one. So let's dive into the first idea right away. This idea is called the 1% rule. It's basically the idea of compounding. If we look into the idea of compound interest from our economics class, it tells how we earn interest not just on our principal investment, but also on the interest we earned on our principal investment. It's basically the interest we earn on interest. The same rule applies to the idea of habit making and is equally important to understand this rule. Or rather, I would say it's more important to understand the compounding effect in our habit making than in our finances. There, you will only lose some money by not understanding the compound interest. But if you don't understand the idea of compounding in habits, it will probably make you lose a lot more. So, James Clear, in his book, does the math for you, and it works out something like this. If you can get 1% better each day for over 1 year, you will end up becoming 37 times better by the time you are done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly to zero. So, what James Clear says, and I quote, habits are compound interest of self improvement. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on daily basis. Stop quote. And let me reiterate the important point that improving by 1% will make you significantly better. And that's right. But getting worse by 1% every day will leave you with nothing that you have today. So this compounding effect can make you or even break you. Let me give you a real life example. All the listeners from India would know this, but let me put it in perspective of this rule. 15 years after the Reliance Ambani group was split equally between Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani, today the net worth of Anil Ambani is, as is claimed by himself, is zero and he is bankrupt, while Mukesh Ambani is the richest man in Asia. This shows that if you don't put your money to work positively for you, it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. Your financial habits will do the job for you. Similarly, if your habits are not having a forward looking trajectory, it's only a matter of time when the compounding effect will catch up. James Clear put it very aptly, and I can't do any justice if I say it differently. And so I quote, your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. You get what you repeat. Stop quote. Everything in life compounds. Productivity compounds. Knowledge compounds. Relationships compound. Positive as well as negative thoughts compound. You won't be able to see any difference in yourself by working on it only for a day or two. You got to do it every day, and that's the hard part. So don't get discouraged when you can't run a 10K after 2 months. But keep on working on yourself, and you'll run a marathon at the end if you stick to it. James Clear in this book breaks down the habit forming process into different timelines and makes you relate to it pretty good. He talks how we get discouraged in our early days and what it takes to get past that stage to make sure that you follow the 1% rule. There are many other fundas in the 1% rule that James Clear talks about. I won't go into the details in this episode. The second thing I'd like to talk from the book is the importance of being process oriented or goal oriented. So, you will find many people or the top CEOs preaching to be either goal oriented or process oriented. You will also find people saying, what if you don't aim at your goal and only follow your process? You will get lost in the process and you would not succeed. The example I'd like to cite directly from the book is, if you are a basketball coach and you ignored your goal to win the championship and focused only on your team's daily practice, would it give you results? The answer is yes, because the practice takes care of the game takes care of the scores take care of each game, and successful each game takes care of the championship. So, James Clear stresses on focusing on the process and doing it right, and you will see the results follow it most of the times. So, does it mean that goals are completely useless? Of course not. Goals are good for setting the direction, but processes are what that will lead you to them. Because if you see, people who win and those who lose both have the same goals. They both want to win the game, but what differs is the process they follow. No loser claims that he planned to lose on this one. Okay, unless you are Shah Rukh Khan from the movie Bazigar, and at that point, even I am all up for losing. To listeners who don't get this reference, it's from a famous 1993 Bollywood movie where the actor Shah Rukh Khan claims that losing was his plan to win eventually. And if you are from India and you still don't get this reference, I guess you can go back under the rock. That's right. Just kidding. So, after this SRK digression, let's get back to our episode on habits. I will take this idea of being process oriented in habits a step ahead and say that you should also find satisfaction in the process and not just the goal. If you start enjoying the process, you'll stick to it, and you will stick to it with more determination, leading to the goals you want. This doesn't mean you don't enjoy the goals, but since those are momentary satisfactions, enjoying the process is more rewarding. For example, if you don't enjoy going for the practice every day, although you enjoy playing the game a lot, so what will happen is that over time, you will not be good at the game, so forget about enjoying the game, you will not be playing it in the first place. So you should start enjoying the practice sessions. That will only make you good at the game, and that will make you enjoy the game even more. So now you might wonder, why am I focusing so much about the process oriented living versus goal oriented living? And what does it have to do with habit making, which is the topic of our episode? James Clear says that we find changing habits difficult because we aim at the goal, like losing weight, winning a championship, running a marathon, etc. Although it's important to have the goal in mind, but focusing on the goal often doesn't help making the habit successful, as habits are all about processes, and if you do the process right, results will follow. So, James Clear suggests you look into changing your identity at the deeper level, and that will help to make the habit sustainable. He suggests you become a runner instead of someone who wants to run a marathon. You become a reader instead of targeting X number of books a year. You aspire to become fit instead of wanting to just lose weight. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes a part of your identity. So, next time it starts raining and you still go for a run, that's evidence you are committed to your habit of running and not your goal of running a marathon, because you would say that not running for one day would not impact to achieve your goal. But as we saw from the first idea of this episode, even bad habits compound. And if you don't run for a day, then two, and then three, and so on, it will be in no time that you will stop becoming a runner. To sum up this idea, I'd quote James Clear. Once you have an handle of the type of person you want to be, you can begin taking small steps to reinforce that identity. Stop quote. He tells a personal story in the book. He says he has a friend who lost over 100 pounds by asking herself, what would a healthy person do? And all day long, she used this question as a guide. Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad? She figured if she acted like a healthy person long enough, eventually she would become that person. And she was right. The concept of identity based habits is very important and it leads to the feedback loops. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habit, and it's a two-way street. So, what it basically means is that if you want to change a habit, try to change your identity so that it suits that habit. And in no time, you will realize that the habit feeds your identity, and your identity feeds your habit. The third idea I'd like to talk about is basically the overall structure of the book. It does come out preaching at times with some really nice motivational quotes, and I am sure some of them will pump you up while you're reading. Similar to the speech given by Samuel Jackson in Coach Carter or SRK in Chuck Day. In nutshell, this book is about four-step methodology to form a good habit. It gives some insights on how to make a habit that you are trying to form have the least resistance path so that it becomes very obvious to follow. It teaches you how to make a habit attractive so that you keep on following it without failing at it. It also teaches you how to make the rewards satisfying so that you keep on continuing the habit even once you have it. This is very important according to me because we humans by nature are very lazy and selfish. And unless something is rewarding, we don't necessarily want to do it. So, talking about habits, we all have some bad habits we wish to get rid of. And the process for that, according to James Clear, is exactly opposite. He believes that if we make the habit unattractive, difficult to pursue or follow, and make the rewards very unsatisfying, as time passes, we will get rid of that habit. I haven't tried myself to get rid of my bad habits in this way, but if any of you did, do let me know. To sum up our discussion of the book for this episode, I'd like to recommend this book, but with caution. If you have read Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg or Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, you can skip this one. It doesn't overlap entirely, but you get a good feel of these ideas that you are trying to read, and that will make this book very unsatisfying. And as James Clear himself says, if the things are unsatisfying, you don't really want to do it. That's why I recommend to skip this one. Or if you still want to go through the book, you can skim through the chapter summaries and not miss much that the book has to offer. So, this chapter summary after each chapter is a really nice aspect of the book I liked. If you haven't read any of the two books I mentioned, then this is a great book. Really easy to read and grasp and not being very repetitive. This book is rated at about 4.4 on Goodreads, and I'd personally rate it at about 3.5. But to put it out there, I don't like self-help books, and probably my bias of that is reflected in my rating. The author James Clear has written some more books, and all of them are about self-improvement, habits, and topics related to them. So you can check them out if you want to. If you are into newsletters, you can also check out his weekly newsletter called 321. I find it very interesting. It's a short newsletter and it has three short ideas, two quotes, and one question for you to ponder upon for the week. And like I said, this book has a lot of Monday morning motivational quotes. So let me end this episode with one of the quotes I liked from the book. Success is the product of daily habits, not a once in a lifetime transformation. Stop quote. Starting this month, I'll come up with two episodes each month. One will be on a book and the other will be a deep dive into brewing either coffee or beer or tea. I did a dry run last month with this format and the response was very satisfying. And habits with satisfying rewards are here to stay, right? Anyway, Do let me know how you like this episode and if you have any recommendations on book you'd like me to discuss. My email ID is booksnbrewpodcast@gmail.com. For more such episodes, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, or on my YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast on. Please do like and rate this show on whichever platform you're listening to. Until next episode, spread the word, keep reading, happy listening. The music for this show is given by Rahul Tombre.